Just
Alright, 7 o'clock.
Go ahead and get started. Call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Griffiths,
Here.
Commissioner Volkman,
Here.
Commissioner Fink,
Here.
Commissioner Schneider,
Here.
Commissioner Hedstrom, here, Commissioner Wolf, and Commissioner Wilson are absent this evening.
Anybody ready? Any questions on the minutes?
Move that the minutes be approved as written.
Second. Second to approve the minutes of last meeting. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Same sign, motion passed. Minutes are approved. We don't have any new business or old business, so we'll move on to miscellaneous with staff review of Article 21, Section 112, 180 conversion systems. So, go ahead.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, this is, staff will be reviewing, with the planning commission, the currently enforced wind energy provisions for the purpose of kind of relating these requirements to, what you will be receiving in your packets, for the anticipated public hearing on the Oak Ridge Wind Project. This will also help familiarize the newer members with the contents and what to expect going forward. No amendments will be considered at this time. Basically, this is this was passed a couple of years ago, and it's divided into basically 3 sections. Section 21.112, Section 04, details the minimum requirements for conditional use permit submittal for commercial wind energy facilities. Item 20, Section 21.112.05 is the requirements for commercial wind energy facilities in general. And 21.112.06 has to do with nuisance management and actually the zoning, actually what we're gonna really talk about this evening, the nuisance management is there, yes, but the big thing is the section that talks about the building permits, and that's way back on 112.10 on the last, second to last page. And so to start off with, section 112.04, where the minimum requirements for the conditional use permit. These are all pretty straightforward. Topographic map, the name, address, telephone number, all of the pertinent information. Evidence of written submission to FAA, Form 7460. These are all kind of requirements anyway that the feds require. Evidence of consultation with Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks. All of this stuff is pretty straightforward. What I would kind of like to explain to you is when you get your packets, you're going to be receiving basically a site plan that shows the approximate location of the turbines on the parcels. The parcels will be there. The approximate location, because they don't know yet where, it's subject to, based on their engineering and their soil delineation, where that's actually going to be located on that particular parcel. So it's not going to be varied by much. It's probably going to be varied by about, like, if they move it 10 feet or whatever, I said, from what they'll show you on the site plan. So that's why this is a preliminary, they call it a preliminary site plan for the proposed facility in general conformance with the applicable requirements of Article 14.103, which is your review standards that are set out in the zoning regulations for plans that are submitted. The preliminary site plan must provide sufficient detail to understand the nature and scope of the proposed project and the attributes of the specific location project infrastructure identified in the preliminary site plan may be adjusted or moved without any additional approval from the zoning administrator or county, so long as the modifications do not expand the WEX project boundary beyond its original filed location, and all setbacks are maintained within these regulations. So basically, it's not going to be, my understanding is it's not going to be, when you get your site plan, it's going to show the facilities, it's going to show where the turbines are going to be. But at the end, and when I get into the building permit section requirements, it may be slightly varied from what's on the site plan. It will be like maybe, like I say, 10, 12, 15 feet, varying from where it was originally, what you'll be seeing on the site plan that they'll be submitting possibly. So
Tim, is there a way that we can ask questions?
well, this is just, you guys can ask me questions.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. 21-112-04 is where we're on, section B.
Yeah.
Line 7.
Okay.
And battery storage facilities associated. I believe that was addressed in the moratorium
Yeah.
on solar.
It is.
No battery storage.
No, there's no battery storage proposed for this. They put that in there just as a way of.
Well, it's in there, so that means, the way I interpret it, then it can do it.
No, they can't. Not in terms of, if they want to, they have to submit something that's related to the WEX facilities. I can tell you now that nothing has been submitted that is related to the battery storage. Right.
I totally understand that.
Might be in the future.
That's why that's gonna contradict the moratorium.
Not if it's done after 2 years. So if they're aware of the moratorium. And so I'm not saying that they are going to submit one, but I'm just saying though it says, or any facilities that are, that doesn't, if there's a moratorium on wind energy, the solar and
any other
the energy storage stuff, all of that, they can't submit it because the moratorium overrides that. It's, and they don't.
Okay, I'll take that on face value, but if I was in L, I'd say, but you have it in your regulations that I can do the battery
Right.
storage.
Well, they can wait 2 years until it expires.
The moratorium expires.
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes. If we decide to go with that, and we may, after that moratorium expires, we may say, we don't want that type of use, the battery energy storage. We might not want that in, or we might not want the solar.
That's a grave concern that I have is battery storage.
Right.
And so that's why it popped up here and I'm going, oh.
So far, there is nothing that has been submitted that has anything to do with battery energy storage.
And you're
related to this project.
You're feeling comfortable that that's not going to happen and it can't happen
Right.
for 2 years.
Right.
Based on the moratorium.
Right.
Unless we extend it or say no.
Yeah.
And that was gonna be my question, so you're suggesting that it could be extended, when you were saying if we decide we don't want that, so the moratorium could be extended.
The moratorium can't be necessarily extended. What you would do is you would just decide that after 2 years, we don't want it. Or, because we're taking the time, that 2 years is to gather enough information for you to review it and say, determine, do we want it, do we not want it? If you don't want it after 2 years, then you can just say, we don't want it.
So then we can take that moratorium and then make it indefinitely. And
You can make that recommendation when the time comes.
to the commission.
Yes.
Right. I understand we're only making the recommendation. I'm just a little concerned that it says battery storage in here.
No, it's.
I want that noted.
Right.
Thank you.
And, but you understand item C about could be some variation, like in the access roads that they have going in, they might be over a little bit further on the parcel and that sort of thing.
Right, as long as they stay within the project boundary.
Yes.
So there is no limitation that you're saying of 10 or 15 feet. It's actually the boundary of the project.
Right.
They can move.
Well, within the boundary of that particular parcel. So there's like a parcel, each one of those is gonna, each parcel has a site plan. And each one, and I'll get into that later on, but it has to do with, the final site plan, has to do with each individual parcel will have its own site plan that will have a turbine on it. Gotcha. And so I'll go into more detail in that, but there's the other items are, proof that the affected utility company, or electricity grid operator has been informed of the customer's intent to install a commercial wind energy facility. That's just an interconnection agreement. Just to let you know, I think that particular document is going to be something like 100 some odd pages. And so so what I'm going to do is just show probably, and I'll try to get it to you electronically when I send my packets out to you, but I'm also planning on sending your packets, mailing them to you physically, taking them to your address before the meeting. So you'll get them electronically, and I'm going to give you a big packet, print stuff off, and try to get that information to you that way as well, so that you'll have it ready for when that. And this is going to be, just as a side note, I don't mean to deviate from this, but it's kind of pertinent. I said, my intent is to get in touch with you guys and send out your packets for that particular project the same week that I publish the case, and I send notice out to everybody within 1,000 feet. So you'll be getting that as well. So so if you see some guy walking around your house that you're not used to seeing, I said, that's probably me. Dropping stuff off at your front door. So with that, an approved road maintenance agreement under K, that's on the opposite page, between the county and the developer, that includes, this is not going to be approved, it's not going to be signed. What it is it's saying that it's approved in terms of its language that's ready, to be signed off on if this project is approved. If it's approved, then it's ready to go. So that will be included. The decommissioning plan will be submitted. The bond will not be ready at that time. There won't be a bond required for this. It's just the plan itself, just explain what what's expected of them in the event that it does get decommissioned. The bond and all of that, again, I'm going to get over, I'll explain that later on, is going to be due at the time that a building permit is pulled. So if they don't have any of that stuff, any of the documents that we need signed ready, we will, they don't get a building permit. It's essentially what it is. And this is, again, if it is approved. This is not, nothing's been approved yet. It's just, these are just, I'm going over scenarios with you. Under 112.05, where it talks about requirements for a commercial wind energy facility, again, this is pretty straightforward. These items, you can, if you feel it necessary, this is why I'm going to give you your packet so early, so you have a chance to review everything and review the site plan and everything that they're proposing. You do, under this section, within reason, have the ability to be more stringent on some of these, like setbacks and that sort of thing, if you feel like it has to be, met, certain site setbacks have to be met in excess of the two, because right now it's 2 times the height from public roads. If you feel like there's a location that is too close to the road, that 2 times isn't far enough, then you can make it 2.5 times. You can vary those. These are the aspects under 05 that you can vary as long as it's within reason.
When you say you or we, you're meaning this planning and zoning commission?
Yeah, I can make a recommendation.
Okay.
On.
So how is the height determined? Is the height determined of the turbine, the motor, or is it when a blade is vertical?
The blade up. Yeah.
So if it's a 500-foot tower and has a 200-foot blade, that'd be 700 feet.
Yeah,
Just
they
using
have to be,
spitball numbers.
yeah.
So they'd have to be 700 times 2, it'd have to be a minimum of 1,400 feet from the property line.
Right.
on the road.
Right. And you'll see when you get, I think that they're gonna provide me with I know they will, just kind of a diagram showing you how that, the vertical aspect of the wind turbines is with the blades. No turbine shall be located closer than 2 times the height of any occupied residence of a non-participating landowner in existence as of the CUP application submission date, unless a signed and executed waiver from signed or property owner of the affected occupied residence is supplied to the applicant and included with the CUP application. Setback waivers acquired following the issuance of the conditional use permit shall be provided to the county no later than the date that the WEX owner submits the individual turbine's application for a building permit. This is one that I'm going to try to there's waivers for those that are participating properties where if you have somebody that wants to put a turbine on their property and it's so many feet away from their house, this waiver would allow them to go just a little bit closer to the house than what this requirement is. But what I want to make sure of is that the non-participating properties do not get affected.
The way I read this, a setback waiver comes after the following the issuance of the conditional use permit. So they get the conditional use permit.
Right.
Now they're gonna give a waiver.
Well, for those participating properties from their residence.
To change the setback.
It's one of those things, they've agreed to put that on their property, they have the liability on that if they want to do that.
And if they want it closer, then they can have a waiver to get it closer.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's after the conditional use permit.
Yes.
Can we go back up to K?
Yeah.
On 04?
Yeah.
Well, J is the decommissioning plan, but you're gonna go into detail on that later, right?
Right.
Okay. K, third sentence, whose reasonable fees. Now, we've had some people come in and speak to us and say, boy, using a word like reasonable, and how are we gonna determine reasonable?
We have got individuals we have attorneys that we've recruited to look over these documents to make sure that we have legal counsel.
I understand that, but reasonable, what's reasonable to you and reasonable to me and reasonable to James might be different. And that was a flag that was told us, I think the last meeting or 2 meetings ago.
Right. And we are very much aware of that. We're very much aware of what the other counties have experienced. And we will take steps to make sure, we are taking steps to make sure that does not happen to us.
Okay.
Question on that, Tim, on the road maintenance between county. Is this only going to affect county maintained roads or houses township?
Township as well. It's going to be, what it is it's both
So
the county
administration by the township
and township. Yeah, the townships, we've been meeting, actually, we met with the townships that would be potentially affected. So they're very much aware of what might be transpiring. So I gave them a heads up. So they're gonna, they're aware of it. And we'll be in constant contact with them anyway. I think Road and Bridge Department and the county always work with
Yeah, we have a signed MOU with all of the townships in the area that the county would administer the project on their behalf.
yeah, okay, that's that.
And on that same item K, I happened to drive to Frankfurt the other day, Tim, and they've got a wind farm up there.
Mhm.
And it never dawned on me, but they had the complete turbine apparatus and generator down on the ground. And there was a lot of equipment around that. And I keep thinking about the installation and the creating of this wind farm. But there's going to be ongoing maintenance. And I mean, Marshall County is not very old, and they had that whole generator down and the 3 turbines sticking out all over creation, and a crane was huge there. And I know this is road maintenance world, not planning commission, but it just dawned on me, is there something that protects the roads, the county, the adjacent landowners through the entire life?
Yeah, we're addressing that issue with the road maintenance agreement, and we're going to try to put language in there that basically addresses that. So.
Okay. I never even thought about it, but the entire life, whether it's 20 or 30 years, and here that one's 3 or 4 or 5 years old, and they've already got one down for maintenance.
We've spoken with Martin in Road and Bridge, and he's very much aware of it, and we've been kind of coordinating.
On that vein, and this might be a little bit outside our lane, but there was some discussion last time about some wind farms that are fairly close to us here, and the operator had to replace some blades doing whatever it is they do. And they went to the farmer and said, hey, you got a big gully over there, you mind if we just put this blade in it and doze dirt over it and we'll fill that gully for it? And they're like, heck yes. We have that covered, so
that's going to be covered.
So there's no way that.
Yeah, well, actually, what I would say is any kind of general maintenance like that, that's going to be addressed as well. As far as what we can do is, as you may not say it here, but what we can do is, and what I'm planning on doing is addressing that in my staff report as a condition. If you're leaning towards approval, I'm going to put a condition in there that they have to abide by the decommissioning aspect of it.
Even in the maintenance process,
even in the
segueing off what Mark was saying, even in the maintenance process, 100% of everything has to be removed.
We're gonna have them basically remove it from the county. Anything nothing is going to be buried here if they go that route.
They bury Gary County, doesn't matter.
Well, they can.
And
all right, thank you, Tim.
I think James would agree. Tim, I will apologize if we're getting out of our lane a little bit. We just have concerns. I know I have, and I've done some research. I've seen other places where it's not gone so smooth.
Oh, yeah.
Our goal is actually just to say, does this fit in Dickinson County? Yes or no?
Yeah.
That's really our job.
Yeah.
Is that right?
There's 2 overriding questions that you have to look at, and the first one is you have to look at the comprehensive plan and see which aspects of the comprehensive plan you feel that this proposal supports. Does it support? Is it violating the conservation aspect of it, the spirit and intent of the conservation, or is the economic development portion of it? Is that being supported by it? So you're going to have to weigh those out and see which one actually. And then the other question that you'll have is in your on the golden factors, the review criteria that I give you for every case. There's one section in there, one element that says, does the health, safety, and general welfare of the community outweigh the right of the individual to put upgrade their property value or something like that? Those are the 2 primary things you're going to have to kind of wrestle with when you consider this.
Well, speaking of comprehensive plan, I had a question come up. I don't know if you may need to research this. I don't expect an answer, but maybe you got it off the top of your head. Which came first? Comprehensive plan or these regulations?
The comp plan. Comp plan came first.
It came, it came before September 22?
Yeah,
We did that like.
back in 17. Like yeah, we updated it in 17, I think, and then we didn't start looking at revising the wind energy. We did have wind energy in the comp plan, but it was very piddly. It didn't really address commercial grade very well. And so it just gave some little general thing about, you know, if you shall be bonded or whatever. It didn't give any conditional use permit requirements. And so we revised that initially in 2019 or 18. And then that was revised again in 22 to kind of clean it up a little bit.
The
So-
comp plan was in 2007, actually.
Yeah,
On the state.
K-State, yeah.
But it was revised then in 22, the same year that.
No, it was revised in 17 or 18.
Oh, okay.
After I first started, I remember that's what I worked on.
So, Tim, appreciate that, you know, the kind of anecdotal example of, you know, burying blades and you saying, yeah, you caught that too, you're gonna put that in there, and all this stuff's gotta be done right. So appreciate that. You know, you mentioned that as an example on the setback. I remember when we wrote these, I think cell towers were like 1.5 times or maybe 1 time.
Yeah.
And we increased this to 2.
Yeah.
Just at that time, I remember doing that.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned we could inch that out some more if we felt like there was a reason for it.
Yes.
Is there any other things in here like that, not just to be ornery, but if it would make sense, is there anything else in here as we're going through besides the setback that we need to be thinking about, that we could potentially tweak as we get into that process?
I'm looking right now. Item H, you can specify which color you want. Essentially, it said all wind turbines shall maintain a galvanized finish or be painted in a color in conformance with the surrounding environment, white, gray, pale blue, or pale green, except for instances related to construction, operation, and maintenance of the facility. No signage, writing, or images may be placed on the tower at any time. In addition, no flags, streamers, or other items may be attached to the facility.
Okay, what about lighting? Where is that covered, and reflectors and beacons and that kind of thing? What section is that?
The lighting is, it is in here, and I'm looking to see where it's at. Oh.
And I appreciate the ability to pick Chapman Green for everything. It's
But the,
Maybe stripes. So lighting, where's that at?
I'm looking for it. I know it's in here.
John,
Just like when cell towers, we required that they put on reflectors.
Oh, yeah. It's,
We require more than what FAA.
Oh.
Just want to know what our ability is here.
okay, item number I, underneath the galvanized finish, it says individual wind turbine heights, lighting, and marking shall comply with but not exceed FAA requirements. That means basically what we can do. I've already got the special kind of lighting in mind for that. That there's a lighting that they have, I don't know what the name of it is, but I've got it written down. That will, it'll stay off until a plane comes within a certain distance of it, and then it turns on. And then it turns off once the plane has gone out of range. So that's what we're looking at. That's what Marion County had put on theirs. And they suggested that we do that, and that's what I'm gonna make a recommendation of if we, as a condition. That they put that type of lighting on. It only comes on when there's a plane within the vicinity and then turns
So you're saying Marion County has that now?
Yes. I believe one of their
Because I know
facilities.
from where I live, I can see the north towers, and I don't remember a time that they weren't flash.
The ones to this, I think the other one
The
does.
south.
The south one, okay, I think.
Okay, so, then, I'm just thinking again about cell towers. You know, there were the FAA requirements, but then we also, in some cases, if I remember correctly, we requested that they put on reflectors so that they wouldn't shine, you know, in somebody's house. I can't remember where one of them was located down south. And I think we requested they put on a reflector.
Well, I think what you're talking about is like a shield.
Yeah,
Yeah, and kind of an undercut shield.
yeah, do we
And
have that ability on here?
It's not in here, but again, that's a condition I can mark down that we can put in as a condition.
At least for discussion.
Yeah.
You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the north field, I can see from my house at night, and like I said, I don't remember it ever not blinking consistently at night. I mean, I've been bailing hay 2 in the morning and they were going.
But this is,
This is the south field.
that's the lighting though that I was describing to you is what, Marion had told me. They'd suggested, okay, this would work. I don't know if that went in, if they made changes to their regulations to put that in there after the fact, or if that went in as a requirement up there. But I think in this, I'm not familiar with the south, but I think they were referring to the south that has that. Okay, mind if we move on to nuisance management? Is that okay? 06, item A, these are all, again, these are pretty straightforward. Upon receipt by the Dickinson County Planning and Zoning Department of a credible complaint from a non-participating landowner regarding noise from an existing wind turbine, the owner of the WEX may be required no more than once per year at its expense, to have prepared by an independent acoustical consultant an acoustical study that shall demonstrate that the noise level on non-participating landowner property caused by the operation of the turbine measured at a level at 5 feet above ground level on the side of the property line that is the subject of the complaint shall not exceed 65 decibels.
So can I ask a couple questions on that?
Yeah.
Who would the acoustical consultant, who would choose them? Would the wind turbine company choose them, or would we choose them?
WEX would.
They would choose them?
Yeah, it says WEX may be required no more than once per year.
Correct, I understand that, but they'd be required, but I didn't know if they would choose the consultant or if we would be able to have input into that.
We can, well, again, that might be something that we want to look at as far as, to give us a little more, to make it more of a fair and balanced.
Well, you're right, and that's all I'm thinking about is, if they have a consultant they work with all the time that just somehow magically always answers the right questions their way, would it make sense for us to have the ability to have input into that, or for us to choose whoever does that study?
Yeah, that's, I can see if we can.
And then my other question is, it says at WEX expense, but it doesn't specifically say then that they cannot go back and bill us for that out of our pilot payments. And I don't know if that's being too nitpicky to every time.
Well,
there's anything that says-
I understand where you're going, but I said the pilot agreement is going to be something that, number one, you're not gonna be looking at with this application. But it is something that we are very much mindful of. At the last hearing, the last meeting last month, I said there were a lot of good points that were brought up. And I made notes of them, and I said those will be, those are things that I'm gonna be putting in, for consideration.
Yeah, and so that's all I'm asking here. I know that really, honestly, the pilot thing isn't in our wheelhouse. That's not something probably that we'll be dealing with. But I'm just thinking on your end, you would have the ability to just include verbiage there that, at their expense, and they cannot, somehow go back and bill us for that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if that would make sense.
Believe me, I'll have a laundry list of conditions that I'm going to be putting on this, so it's going to be quite a few.
So,
And
when it says no more than once per year, is that, I realize they do it once a year, but is that for every single landowner? Let's say we have 3 landowners, non-participating landowners that say this is making too much noise and we need to have an audiologist or whatever they are come out.
Yeah.
Are they gonna have them come out one time a year, or are we gonna get somebody come out 3 times spread out?
It would have to be
every year?
it would have to be 3 different people at this. It depends on when I get the complaint.
Sure, okay,
So
but they're not like you're not, I guess you wouldn't get them all at the same time, but
No,
you wouldn't select or Lex wouldn't select a day to have that audio guy come out if you had 3 of them together.
so if I live on the north side and I'm like, hey, you know what, this is bothering me, I talk to you, you set it up. Justin lives on the south side, and he comes in a month later and goes, hey, this is bothering me. Those are separate instances.
Right, and
so,
then it's something that I would have on record and just say that it's in the process of being, it's already been filed as a complaint, and so so I'll have so long to get it resolved.
Right, but I think the question is, will they only come out one time a year, no matter how many complaints there are?
Yeah,
That's the
that was
question.
my question.
No, it's the way that it's worded is they can come out, basically, if we get like 10 different complaints from people, they'll have to, from different areas of, like, let's say if it's dealing with, like, let's say 3 different parcels. Okay, they can come out, each of those parcels will be determined to be an incident report.
Separate.
Right, okay. And they can come out, once a year for each one of those. But, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So,
I do, thank you.
The owner of the WEX shall, at its sole expense, this is item C, take measures reasonably necessary to resolve any interference with electromagnetic communications such as radio, telephone, television signals caused by the WEX. So that's on them.
Okay.
Uh,
but again, it says reasonably necessary. They may say, you know what, it's not necessary for, Steve Johnson to have radio or TV or telephone, it's just really not necessary. Is there, do you have the ability to tighten that up?
I could say,
Tighten that language up?
that if it's a demonstrable,
Yeah.
It wouldn't be a reasonable request for them to ask. To say that it's not they don't say it's bothering or interrupting someone's radio or television signals. That wouldn't be seen as a reasonable.
So can you explain that more? Can you go, and I guess, I'm sorry, I don't know who you are over there.
Excuse me, my name is Anna Karslach, I'm an attorney at Dickinson. I regularly represent municipalities and advise on land use and zoning issues. And I've been requested to assist with questions arising in connection with the review of wind farm applications. And so if someone, and would you restate your question again?
So my question is, it's ambiguous. It says that they shall take measures reasonable and necessary. And their attorney's definitions of reasonable and necessary to resolve, quite possibly, and we heard that in our last meeting, could be different than our or your or the landowner's definitions of reasonable and necessary.
Well, and I think
So
that
how do you mitigate that on the front end so the landowner and or the county doesn't get hooked?
And the hypo presented was that if they said that this person doesn't need access, or that it's not, or if they don't need television or radio, I mean, that wouldn't be reasonable to
Sure.
say, yeah.
Sure, and that was anecdotal. How do you resolve with 100% certainty within the contract with them that reasonable and necessary is defined tight enough that no citizen or county will be damaged in any form or fashion? How do you ensure that in the contract with them?
Yeah, there's nothing that's 100% right.
So there's no language you can put in a substitute to take the place of reasonable and necessary. Because last time in our meeting, we heard from a county commissioner from Marion County that this same company went back to those ambiguous terms and used them to take advantage of the county and the citizens. So if you're the attorney representing us, how do you address that now on the front end of this?
I'd be interested in more information about, but other
And it's all part of the public record. Diane turned absolutely everything into Tim, and so it's all part of the public record. Did you watch the meeting from last time?
I did not, but I can look at this, and look at the information and provide a response.
The agreement just was taken care of this last week, so, and it's just starting,
Okay.
yes.
Well, for me, that gives me a lot of discomfort. Any place in our rules and regs where it says usual and customary, reasonable, industry standards, necessary, those are totally ambiguous, and being in the business you're in, you know the attorneys can really work on those words for months and months or years, even to the definition of what is. So anything we can do to firm those up in these, I would be really interested in. I don't know how the rest of the board feels, maybe I'm off on a limb here, but.
Well, to take that further on item E, to two levels down, item E, we have the word reasonable in two different sentences. Reasonable timetable, reasonable period of time. But I think the person assisting maybe needs to do some research on that, and that would be great. But Tim, on item D, any wind turbines that are not functional shall be repaired by WEX owner or removed at the WEX owner's expense.
Yes.
Are we able, there are no parameters on that. It says they're not functional. Does that mean they're not functional for a day, a week?
When it says functional, it could mean that it's not functional in terms of turning. It could be not functional because of electrical purpose.
I'm not asking to define that as a mechanical thing. I'm asking a parameter, how long can it not be functional? And the secondary of that question, is this a place where we can put a condition?
Yes, you can put a condition on there.
Of saying, as an example, and I'm not saying I'm gonna do this, but any wind turbines that are not functional for more than 30 days, is that something we can put on as a condition?
As a condition, yes.
You feel comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's what we normally do anyway. With any code enforcement case, we give them usually 30 days.
I understand, but it's not in this.
I understand that. And that would not be unreasonable, I don't think,
So we can put a condition.
Okay, and just in keeping with the same spirit and intent of the previous conversation, I have trouble with the word functional. Who defines functional? I've got cattle panels that some people would say are not functional, but I put them up and they hold cattle in. So what determines if a wind turbine is functional? Who determines that? How is that determined? That word is ambiguous and
Two people can determine. If it can be shown, demonstrated that it's not moving, that's not functional, okay? But there's other reasons mechanically and electrically that the WEX owner may think it's not functional, so they've got to remove it.
So can
That we don't see.
Can we define that more in some of the things you just said, electrically or mechanically or somehow? And again, I don't know, I just know that it's ambiguous, it's open-ended, we really don't have a leg to stand on. If we wanna add some time frame, be it 30 days, 3 weeks, 6 months, whatever, who determines is it functional or not? Is it physically turning? No, but it's a good electric motor, the blades are good, we're just waiting for a part from China.
And that's
Well,
that.
I don't know.
If my light switch is not functional, it's not making that light go on and off. So could a definition be, it's not producing electricity?
And I'm okay with that if that.
I don't know, that's just simple.
There's
Tighten.
well, it could be a fan motor that's running cooling the motor out,
Right.
that's not functional, that we don't know anything about, that only the WEX owner knows about.
Yeah.
And so that's what, there's gonna be details in this that are gonna be really ambiguous.
Yeah,
So there's this,
so again, just for our attorney partners, if you had the ability to read through this and look for those ambiguous things, and I don't know, can we still firm those up in these rules and regs, or do they need to be firmed up in conditions? That's.
yes, conditions,
Okay.
yeah, the conditions.
So if we can get legal counsel to invest the quality time to go through that with fine tooth comb, and then educate our dear friend Tim to make those part of staff recommendations. Does that make sense? I don't imagine your workload, Tim, but.
I'm used to it.
Well, thank you. But those kind of open-ended, ambiguous things really add a lot of risk to me. That makes sense.
You can cut both ways, because it also provides some flexibility in interpretation. And it's almost impossible to predict every situation that could potentially arise. And so zoning regulations are drafted in a way that tries to allow for flexibility for various situations that could happen. But yes, we'll look at that with that in mind.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I also know that they have a big building somewhere with rooms full of attorneys and research assistants, and their job is to maximize profit. So I'm just thinking anything we can do on the front end to protect current citizens down the road when we're all gone, that's of interest to me.
Well, here we go. To answer one of your questions, James, under 21-112-08, item D, on all of the above issues, a reasonable length of time for property owners to respond to complaints shall not exceed 30 days. A reasonable length of time to correct confirmed violations shall be based on the nature of the violations and shall be determined by the county. So we can put 30 days on there.
So in that example, that word reasonable, we would define, you're saying you would define that in staff
Yes.
recommendations.
Yes, and usually I base my what's reasonable in terms of code enforcement is whatever the state statute says, and the state says you can give a minimum of 10 days, but I usually give 30 days or for a response. If it depends on how big the situation is, how big the problem is. If it's something that can be corrected in 10 days, but usually with something like this, you have to give them, it's a little longer time to get it resolved. And so I end up putting like a little red flag on my calendar saying, check this after 30 days and see if it's been resolved.
So on that example, if the state statute in that example says 10 days, maybe.
Yeah.
Would it give us additional legal footing if we mirrored state statute?
That's a minimum. So we would say minimum of 10 days. But in all likelihood, what I do is the 10 days is for, but I would, it just depends on how bad the situation is, what the violation is. If the violation or if the condition, the situation is such that the property owner, in this case, the WEX owner, has to schedule a time to come out if they're, and fix it, I usually give people 30 days. If it's a commercial type operation, I give them 30 days to clean something up, or to correct a violation. And the 10 days is the minimum that the state says, and that's why I make it 30. So 30 is our standard in Dickinson County. 10 daes is the minimum, but legally that we require. 30 days is what we require, that we have consistently done or enforced for the past
But again,
25,
that's,
30 years.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But again, that's something that we can put on some conditions.
Yes.
We can tighten that
Yeah,
on some conditions.
yeah.
Reasonable conditions. I'll use that word.
Here.
Right.
So Tim, again, just thinking about the size of that organization, the resources they have, how we would like for the constituents for things to operate like clockwork, as much as they could.
Yeah.
Would it make sense to make things like that example you mentioned, would it make sense to make those the shortest legal time frame that the state statutes are? If they go over, we can still extend grace to them. But my experience with companies is that if you give them 10 days, they're probably going to get it done in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If you give them a month, it's going to be a month and a half. Maybe it'll dribble out to 2. With a good set of excuses, they might go 3.
If you have a,
I'm just wondering
Yeah.
if it would make sense in some of these cases for us to make that as short as legally possible.
I want to
under
give you
state
a
statutes.
real world example that I deal with every day. Let's say somebody has a illegal scrap iron operation going on. I get a complaint, I send them a letter, I say to the property owner, I say, you've got 30 days to either contact staff, coordinate with staff on this issue, or get it have it totally removed within 30 days. So either contact staff and work out some sort of a timeline to get it taken care of, or get it removed within 30 days. And I said, there are times when I say, I want you to contact me within 10 days. So it gives them enough time and me enough time to schedule it so that they can get that resolved, and so I know what's going on. 90% of the time though, there's some that don't respond to me. And so I have to go, and then it goes to court and all. But that's a real world example. I don't think, now that's just, you're talking about somebody that's got like an illegal salvage operation
And mom and pop thing.
versus a,
multi-billion-dollar corporation that's being fed by tax dollars.
and so it's, so that's what I'm saying. My experience has been when you're dealing with commercial facilities, I'm talking about even like retail businesses and that sort of thing that might have, a certain situation, they'll get something done in 10 days. They can get that issue resolved. And like you said, they can get it done, the multi-million-dollar company can probably get it done within 10 or 15 days.
So we're thinking the same thing, then we'll tighten these down, these expectations with them, not unreasonable, but make it kind of mirror the minimum that the state has. And if we need to extend some grace, we can,
Right.
but at least there's that expectation that they'll get with the program.
Right, and like I say, I already technically do that for them. I already give, for those commercial type operations that are like retail and that kind of thing. I'd kind of like to go on into 11209, the decommissioning.
Can I say, excuse me, can we look at 07?
Yeah.
07, environmental factors, B, construction and operation shall be done in a manner so as to minimize soil erosion. We're an agricultural community. Minimize soil erosion. Facilities should avoid steep slopes.
Right.
Probably one of the conditions that I'd like to put is let's define steep. I know we can't define reasonable, but we can dang sure define steep.
So you could go with NRCS highly erodible. They have some slope and soil quality. So you can have different slopes based on different soil quality. We could request that.
Just something I saw.
Yeah.
Do you want to go to 9, Kim?
Yeah.
Decommissioning.
Yeah, decommissioning.
This will be good.
At the end of the projects or individual turbine or tower's useful life, excluding maintenance, replacements, or repairs, all applicable WEX equipment shall be removed from the site, and the foundation for the base of each applicable tower shall be removed, such that each location can be covered over with a minimum of 18 inches of topsoil and reseeded with native grass. Any request greater than the minimum requirements shall be negotiated between the WEX developer and the landowner at or before the time of decommissioning. Access roads shall be removed to the landowner's satisfaction, and the ground shall be restored to a use compatible with the surrounding uses. The requirement to remove access roads shall not apply to roads in existence before the WEX application was filed. Landowner may choose to have such roads left intact. In the event that the WEX owner abandons the WEX facility, notifies the county that it is unable to decommission the WEX facility, or if following the determination of a conditional use permit, the WEX owner does not initiate decommissioning within the reasonable period of time, then the county may elect to exercise the decommissioning bond to decommission the WEX facility. Okay, that's pretty straightforward. What you can do though is if you feel the 18 inches, that's the first thing I see is not enough, you can make it 24 or whatever.
Well, then let me take that a step further. It has, those concrete bases
Yeah,
are sticking out of the ground anywhere 12 inches, 18 inches, 24 inches out of the ground.
right.
All it says is they need to be covered with 18 inches of topsoil, so that means they'll just haul dirt up on top of them and not take any concrete out.
Right.
That would not ever be
Well,
acceptable.
so yeah, I mean, I was thinking that, but I was also thinking, if it's out in the field, bean field, why would you plant native grass? Unless they're gonna just make a mound of dirt out there and kind of do that. So what I thought from the Marion County was that in their decommissioning plan, I thought we talked about that they were gonna be taking 3 foot below ground level and refill the topsoil. Is what I- Back to
Original grade,
Yeah,
below
back to
original
grade.
And you can require
Back to grade.
yeah, the condition.
Is 3 foot, again, is 3 foot the right amount, I mean, if somebody.
I'll be honest, traditionally, and I say traditionally, it's been my experience from hearing other people talk about decommissioning. Usually what they'll do is they will take it down to 3 feet. Okay, removing the concrete, a certain amount of it,
Yeah.
a certain amount of it. And then cover it over.
But it doesn't say that in our regulations.
It can be a condition. Okay.
So if we wanted to go 4 feet, could we go 4 feet? Remove the concrete and steel?
The
Or
typical,
is that not?
the typical is 3 feet. The typical that I hear many people talk about for decommissioning is 3 feet, 36 inches, because that's frost line. Under 21-112, item 10, this is where I wanted to kind of get in with you about the details, okay? And notwithstanding anything within these regulations to the contrary, a WEX owner shall have a period not to exceed 24 months from the date of the issuance of the conditional use permit for the WEX to, 1, submit its building permit application or applications for each wind turbine structure or building to be constructed as part of the WEX facility, and 2, commence construction of the WEX facility. Item B is prior to the issuance of any building permits for the facility, the county zoning administrator must be in receipt of the following: standard drawings of the wind turbine structure, including the tower base, footings, and foundation that account for structural loads. In addition, a site-specific engineering analysis which shall include a soils analysis, and certification of all wind turbine foundations by a licensed professional engineer shall be required. I'm going to put licensed in the state of Kansas in that. Item 2, to the extent that it is publicly available, data pertaining to the wind turbine tower safety and stability, including, for example, safety results from test facilities or a qualified third-party assessment. Paragraph 3, surety in the form of an escrow account, surety bond, or insurance policy in an amount determined by a third-party engineer. This would be our engineer. The county engineer has experience in this determination. In an amount in the decommissioning of WEX and approved by the Board of County Commissioners as necessary to restore the site to its pre-development state. Decommissioning bond, pre-development shall mean removing all visible above-grade infrastructure. That kind of goes to what we were talking about.
That goes back to that.
Yeah, it goes back to what we had said.
Yep, above grade.
Yeah, and copies, item 4, copies of the following executed documents by and between Dickinson County and the WEX owner: the pilot payment in lieu of taxes agreement and or development agreement. Item 2, road maintenance agreement and decommissioning plan. So all of that has to be submitted to me before I even issue them a building permit.
So can I ask a couple of questions?
Yeah.
So example, Marion County, their attorneys, again, because they have a whole herd of them, and they drug out the pilot payment agreement, payment in lieu of taxes. They drug it out, started the project, drug it out, got 6 or 7 months down the road, still wasn't done. And finally, the attorney for Marion County said, even though they've actually reduced the amount of the pilot payment, it wasn't what was in the application. So they had the application, they had the pilot payment identified in there, and then even though they reduced it, they couldn't get any traction. He says, just well sign it, it's the best you're gonna get. So if I'm hearing you correctly, Tim, we won't have the ability to even approve the application until all of these items are put to bed 100%.
You can't, I won't be able to approve a building permit application. So they can't start work until all of this stuff is in.
The building application.
The building permit, not the conditional use.
Not the use permit.
Okay.
Building permit that.
My building permit, they can't even start work. They can't move dirt until they
We don't deal with that. That's.
And we asked that question of the Marion County Commissioners, and they were like, well, we needed to hold the project up, so we let them kind of get started. And so what you're saying, Tim, is the buck stops here,
with me.
and you back that up,
Correct.
all right? Well, I got to 4, can I back up to one more question?
Sure.
So back up on the bond, thing, the last sentence says, then the county may elect to exercise the decommissioning bond, decommissioning facility. Again, with the Marion County, I believe it was with them that, we discussed that bond, and they don't even have access to it. The actual wind energy company owns and holds that bond. So even if the county wanted to exercise it, they legally don't have access to that bond and can only get access to it if the wind energy company goes, yeah, okay, we feel like it.
Well, we are investigating where we can have cash on hand available, in some form. We are, investigating what form that would take. So a bond, decommissioning bonds, yeah, but I said if you need something right away, we're investigating some other alternative payment.
So insurance companies, bond companies, they go belly up just like wind energy companies. They go belly up and the paper isn't worth even lighting the fire in my wood stove with. So having the money in the bank, again, I mean, I know it's a lot, but if the decommissioning plan says it's $120 million project, just spitball numbers, if that's what it is, then it would be great to have that money. I know, again, where I'm outside our lane here, but it'd be great if that money was deposited up front in Dickinson County banks, First National Bank Hope and Astor Bank, and it'd be nice if that money was here in accounts that we owned. A legal agreement that they get it back if we never need it, but because a bond really isn't worth the paper it's printed
Well, and
on.
that's what I learned that a long time ago, when I first started working, not here, but in another county. I said bonds, yeah, they do not, they're pretty fluid, I mean, it's a nice word.
So when you're saying decommissioning bond, that's kind of an overview of a tool
Yes,
to be implemented at the decommissioning time.
right.
We haven't quite defined that.
Right, and my intention, and I will get into more detail of this at the public hearing for the application. One of the things that we're investigating also is all these agreements. And Anel I think I've spoken to their representative, and they said that they would be open to examining the decommissioning agreement every 5 years or something like that, or every 2 years to adjust it accordingly, as far as the amount.
And I'm guessing that the 3 options of what the decommissioning is, you're choosing the reverse construction, not the blowing up and not the chopping down.
No.
Just know you want to blow it up, but.
I think we can still take it to that.
You knew I was gonna ask that.
So in lieu of, again, just having read a decommissioning plan that was just a couple years old, from 2020, I guess it'd be 4 years old, and dump truck rates in that were, I'm gonna say, $85 an hour, and now Midwest Concrete, what are dump truck rates?
140.
140, so.
They'd be adjusted.
So my question is, rather than having to re-meet and readjust for inflation, would it make sense to have just a list of businesses, Midwest Concrete, whoever, businesses that'll hopefully be around in 20, 30, 40 years, and just reference whatever their rates are? And then we wouldn't have to meet, we wouldn't get maybe 4 years into it, not quite to the 5th year, and then we end up, with rates that are behind. Would it be possible to index that based on existing businesses that are running every day?
I don't think it could.
KDOT has something similar already set up, and that's what our county engineer is working with.
Yeah.
Okay, so we might just mirror the KDOT
Yes.
higher rates every year. Okay, that would be really good. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And items, the paragraph 6 down there, it says proof that the WEX owner has obtained liability insurance coverage in an amount not less than $1 million per incident with the county named as additional insured. In lieu of such coverage, the WEX owner may provide an indemnification agreement satisfactory to the county.
And we talked actually about that $1 million when I think Diane was here.
Yeah.
We talked about that really being just a fraction of what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So would it be possible either in this or with a condition to elevate that?
I think,
That's maybe a legal counsel question, but certainly when this was written was prior, we've had significant inflation, but that number is low, I'm just saying, really low.
Individuals have $1 million.
Oh, I mean, my farm policy is like 4 million.
okay. With that, we can, I think that's really all I wanted to cover out of that. We can go ahead and move on to B, looking at the bylaws.
Tim, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I don't, if it was in here, forgive me, but I was thinking, how deep is that concrete base going to the ground? Do you have any idea?
It goes about, if I remember correctly, it goes about 10 feet in.
Oh, okay, so probably won't, okay, but I was thinking, like, I know over in my area, Dickinson County, we're pretty full of limestone.
Yeah.
If they had to, which they're not gonna blast if it's 10 feet, they're gonna just dig.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, if they have to bore, sometimes that shelf could shift.
Yeah.
You have got people out there that are on spring wells and get their water from a reservoir in the ground. I don't want that, something like that to shift and cause somebody to lose water. But 10 feet's not a whole lot to cause a shift like that. I was thinking if it was like 30 feet in the ground.
I always liken it to the same foundation that they have like at these, like Arch and Daniels Midlands deal. When they built those things went down, well, those went down like 30 feet.
Yeah.
My understanding was the ones in Marion County were more than 10 feet. And I could be wrong on that, but I thought they were more than 10 feet, like.
May have some that are. It just depends on how tall they are.
And then if my memory serves correct, the general discussion was that the Dickinson County project would be taller towers and would have more, I'm not sure what the right word is, but more powerful generators on top. So they would require a larger base, which I assume larger means deeper also.
We'll have all those details at the meeting, because I don't even know what that is. Okay, with the bylaws, I highlighted some things that need changing in there. I think that now would be a good time to make those changes. It's been like since 2015, since it was, you guys looked at this. And I've got, just if you have any questions about what I've highlighted, just let me know, but I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
So the yellow is what you have added or
Yes.
changed?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I've added that. And you'll see some strike throughs on a couple of them too, where I'm taking stuff out.
It says 19th day of September of 2020. Are we gonna like approve this on that day? Is it?
Well, what I was gonna do is, based on what we have in here, what I was gonna do is I just have that in there as a marker. It's whenever we meet again, I'll probably have you sign it if you guys have a consensus that it looks okay. The big thing is I changed the day, Thursday, because it was Tuesday. That's a long time ago, but it was on a Tuesday.
You didn't ask us to move to Thursdays, is how we got here, didn't we?
Yeah.
Thought about that. Which doesn't matter to me, I don't care.
It looks very appropriate. I don't see anything out of ordinary or out of line of your additions, although it does bring up a question, ex parte communication.
Yeah.
Commissioners whom experience ex parte communication must disclose the details of the communication at the commission meeting after the introduction of the item. So does that mean at the hearing?
Yeah, so like in this case, like for this project, when we have our public hearing in
Right.
October is when you would disclose.
Is that when it's gonna be, or?
October, we're looking at tentatively October 10th. And so you're gonna be probably getting your packets, like the second week in September.
So it's looking like October.
Tentatively, yes.
We've had tentatively for quite a few months.
Yes.
So define disclose, because in my case, I've given you everything I've gotten in the mail.
Right, and just
Is that
disclose,
sufficient or?
yeah, you're fine.
And then are you gonna read those? Do we read those?
You would probably have to just explain that you have received this X information and you give that to me, and I will enter it into the record.
So any information that you get on our behalf?
Yeah.
You'll enter into the record?
Yes.
We'll have access to that?
Yeah.
Joe Bob meets me on the street and says, hey, I want to talk about this wind farm. And he starts rattling on, I shouldn't say it that way, he starts speaking about his opinion. I say, can you save that to the hearing? Be polite, save that to the hearing.
Yeah.
But I need to let you know Joe Bob came up and did that.
Yeah, as long as you tell them that, it's up to you. You basically, if you, in a situation like that, as long as you have said, hey, look, wait until the meeting, we'll discuss it then, that's sufficient enough. I said, it's only when, I'm getting into controversy here, but I said, if somebody says, something like they try to say that, okay, well, I want you to vote a certain way, that's where you're starting to get into where you got.
How about if somebody says your taxes are gonna decrease and your electric bills are gonna go down?
Comments like that are allowed. I mean, any comment like that is fine, because it's just general comment. It's a general comment.
Okay.
As long as you're not being like cornered to make a decision about something.
Oh.
But if you receive anything in writing.
You want a copy?
Yes.
Very good.
But that's, now, I've got down the next meeting is tentatively scheduled for September 19th. I'm not anticipating anything, as far as an application, but we may end up getting, I sent a notice to my pig farmer south of town, and he may apply for a conditional use permit for, his operation that he wants to do. So just give me a heads up on another livestock issue.
So I guess we don't have a new or old business. So do we do anything with this or just the bylaws?
You can toss them if you want, but as long as you're okay with it, I'll just give you a clean copy when we meet again.
Okay.
Anyone have any more questions? I'll motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
Seconded to adjourn the meeting, all in favor, raise your right hand. Same sign.
No, thank you for your work.
Yeah, it is a little bit.
Yeah. Thank you, Ken.
Your work on that.